The sky above Earth changed forever at exactly 09:14 UTC. It began as strange lights appearing beyond the moon. At first, astronomers believed it was a meteor shower. Then satellites started disappearing, one after another. Entire communication networks blinked out across the planet. Within minutes, every major observatory confirmed the impossible. Thousands of objects were entering Earth's orbit. Not meteors. Ships. Gigantic metallic vessels emerged silently from darkness, stretching across space like floating cities. Some were shaped like spears. Others resembled spinning rings covered in glowing blue energy. The largest among them was so enormous it blocked sunlight over parts of the Atlantic Ocean. Fear spread instantly. People abandoned offices and schools. Highways jammed with panicked traffic. Social media exploded with videos of giant shadows moving across the clouds. Then every screen on Earth suddenly went black. Phones, televisions, billboards, computers, even military systems. A symbol appeared instead, a silver circle surrounded by 7 stars. No one understood its meaning. Then a voice echoed across the planet. Cold, calm, inhuman. People of Earth do not resist. The message translated automatically into every human language. We are representatives of the Galactic Council. The world froze. In New York, crowds stared upward between skyscrapers as alien ships hovered silently above the clouds. In Tokyo, trains stopped mid-track as passengers watched emergency broadcasts in terror. In villages, cities, deserts, and islands, billions listened to the same voice. You are now under evaluation for integration into the galactic order. Inside the United Earth Assembly Hall in Geneva, world leaders rushed into emergency session. Military officers shouted over one another while giant holographic screens displayed alien fleet positions. Confirmed vessel count, one president demanded. Still rising, an analyst replied nervously. Current estimate over 8,000 warships. The room fell silent. Humanity had only reached Mars 30 years earlier. Against this, they were insects. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the chamber. A massive alien craft descended directly over Geneva, covering the city in darkness. The air itself vibrated as blue energy pulsed beneath the ship's surface. Then a beam of silver light struck the center of the assembly floor. Out of the light stepped beings unlike anything humanity had imagined. Tall, thin, covered in black armor that shimmered like liquid metal. Their glowing eyes scanned the room with complete superiority. At their center stood one figure taller than the others. High Executor Valdric, announced a translator drone hovering beside him. Voice of the Galactic Council. No one moved. No one even breathed. Valdric slowly walked forward, studying humanity like a scientist observing primitive animals. So, he said softly, this is Earth. One world leader finally found the courage to speak. What do you want from us? Valdric raised one hand. Immediately, enormous holograms appeared above the chamber. Human cities, military bases, population statistics, resource calculations. Earth had already been completely analyzed. You will provide tribute, Valdric announced. The holograms changed again. Minerals, fuel, weapons production. Millions of human workers assigned to council labor systems. Then the final demand appeared. Child integration program. Gasps filled the chamber. No, someone whispered. Valdric continued emotionlessly. A percentage of your young will be transferred to council educational sectors for cultural adaptation. You mean kidnapping? A European delegate snapped. Valdric didn't react. Compliance ensures survival. Resistance ensures extinction. The holograms shifted once more. This time they showed simulations. Earth burning. Cities collapsing beneath orbital bombardment. Human fleets erased within minutes. The message was brutally clear. Submit or die. Several world leaders lowered their heads immediately. Fear consumed the room. Humanity stood completely powerless before the galaxy. Then a chair slowly moved backward. Secretary Elias Ward stood up. Unlike the others, he looked strangely calm. Older than most leaders with gray hair and tired eyes, Ward had lived through wars, economic collapse, and political chaos. But something in his expression now felt different. Dangerous. He walked toward Valdrick slowly. "You traveled across the stars," Ward said quietly, "to threaten children." Valdrick tilted his head slightly. "Every civilization contributes." Ward stared directly into the alien's glowing eyes. "You call this civilization?" Alien guards immediately raised glowing weapons. Military officers inside the chamber reached for sidearms. The tension became unbearable. Valdrick stepped closer. "You are in no position to negotiate." Ward looked up at the giant hologram showing Earth's destruction. For a moment, the entire world waited. Then calmly, he reached out and shut the hologram off. Click. The chamber went silent. Ward's voice became cold as steel. Throughout history, powerful empires always believed humanity would kneel when afraid. He glanced around the room. Kings believed it, dictators believed it, conquerors believed it. Then he looked back at Valdrick. And every one of them learned the same lesson. Valdrick narrowed his glowing eyes. Ward took one final step forward. "We will not yield." Shock rippled through the chamber. Even the alien guards hesitated. Then suddenly, warning sirens screamed across the building. Every holographic screen flashed red. Unknown weapon ACTIVTING. Orbital scans zoomed toward the largest alien ship above Earth. A massive cannon was unfolding from beneath it. The weapon stretched for miles. Blue energy crackled across its surface like lightning storms. Military analysts turned pale instantly. One officer whispered in horror, "That's not a warship." The energy readings climbed higher. 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 Valdrick slowly smiled. "Then humanity," he said quietly, "dies tonight." Sky above Earth split open with blue light as the alien superweapon fully activated. In orbit, the Galactic Council fleet shifted into formation, cold, precise, and merciless. The largest warship, called the Harbinger of Order, locked its massive cannon directly onto Earth's surface. Inside the United Earth Defense Network, alarms screamed nonstop. "Impact trajectory confirmed," an operator shouted. "Targeting all continents. Estimated time to fire, 90 seconds. Panic erupted across command centers worldwide. Admiral Sophia Reyes stood frozen in Lunar Defense Command, staring at the tactical display. Red markers filled the screen like a disease spreading across space. "How many ships are still operational?" she demanded. A young technician swallowed hard. "Less than 12% of global defense fleet remains active." Silence. 12%. Against thousands of alien warships. It wasn't a battle. It was execution. On Earth's surface, millions stared at the sky as the alien weapon began glowing brighter. Oceans reflected the blue light like burning glass. Even children understood what was coming. Death. Commander Jake Mercer sat inside his fighter craft, trembling slightly, not from fear alone, but from the weight of reality. "Command," he spoke into comms, "you sure there's no retreat option?" Admiral Reyes responded instantly, her voice firm but breaking at the edges. "There is no retreat, Commander." A pause, then softer. "Only resistance." Mercer exhaled slowly. A strange calm settled over him. "Understood." Across space, human fighters launched. Hundreds of small ships burst from Earth's atmosphere like sparks against a storm. They accelerated directly toward the alien fleet. The Council observers watched in silence. Valdrick himself stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, studying the incoming human forces with mild curiosity. "They still attack," one alien officer said. "Primitive instinct," Valdrick replied. "They believe sacrifice changes outcomes." Human missiles ignited across space. For a brief moment, it looked like humanity had a chance. Explosions lit the darkness as several smaller alien ships were struck. But then the Council responded. A single wave of energy passed through space. Entire human squadrons vanished instantly, erased without sound, without debris, without warning. Commander Mercer watched his wingmates disappear in real time. His breathing became uneven. Lunar Command, we're getting slaughtered up here. Static filled his comms. Then Admiral Reyes answered. I know. That was all she said. Mercer clenched his fists. Then why are we still fighting? A long pause. Then her voice returned. Because Earth is still here. A second wave of alien fire tore through the battlefield. Human fleets began collapsing one after another. On Earth, nations watched their defenders die in real time. Cities went silent. Governments prepared final emergency protocols. Inside Geneva's underground bunker, Secretary Elias Ward stood before the shattered remains of global communication systems. Valdrick still stood in the chamber above him, observing Earth's response. You are persistent, the alien said. Ward didn't respond. Instead, he stared at the collapsing tactical feed of human fleets. Billions of lives hanging on seconds. Then suddenly, a deep rumble echoed through the Earth itself. Not explosions. Not weapons fire. Something deeper. Older. Every seismic monitor on the planet spiked violently. What is that? Someone shouted in the bunker. Alarms shifted. Unknown structure DETSETED depth 7.3 km. Beneath the Rocky Mountains, deep underground facilities began shaking violently. Steel corridors bent under unseen pressure. Scientists ran toward containment chambers screaming orders. Dr. Nathan Hale stared at the core system terminal, his face pale. It's not responding to shutdown commands, he whispered. General Myra Kane grabbed him. What do you mean it's not responding? Hale swallowed hard. It means it's waking up. Above Earth, alien sensors suddenly flickered. Valdrick frowned slightly for the first time. Strange energy signature detected from planetary core. The Harbinger's weapons briefly destabilized. Then, the ground across the Pacific Ocean shattered. Water rose into the sky like a vertical ocean wall. And from beneath it, something enormous began to rise. Humanity's secret. The Titan. At first, only shape was visible, a colossal black structure breaking through Earth's crust. Then limbs emerged, massive mechanical arms covered in glowing blue symbols, a torso wider than continents, eyes that ignited like twin stars. The alien fleet froze. Every Council ship halted firing simultaneously. Valdrick took a step forward. Impossible. The Titan fully emerged from the ocean, standing taller than the atmosphere itself. Then it spoke. Its voice was not sound. It was pressure. It echoed through space, shaking every vessel in orbit. Who threatens humanity? Silence spread across the battlefield. Even human fighters stopped moving. Commander Mercer stared through his cockpit glass as the colossal figure rose above Earth like a guardian of nightmares. What is that? He whispered. On the Council flagship, panic began spreading. That structure violates known physics. It's not registered in any galactic archive. Energy readings are off all scales. Valdrick raised a hand sharply. Target it. But nothing happened. Weapon systems failed to respond. The Titan turned its glowing eyes toward the alien fleet and raised one hand. Space itself bent. Thousands of Council warships suddenly froze mid-motion, then began collapsing inward. Crushing, twisting, erasing. Entire fleets disappeared in seconds. Human pilots watched in stunned silence as the impossible unfolded before them. Mercer's voice cracked. We're not alone anymore. On Earth, billions stared upward. For the first time since the invasion began. Hope returned, but deep inside the Titan's awakening core, something else stirred. And it was not finished. the battlefield above Earth fell into unnatural silence. Not peace, something far worse. Confusion. The Galactic Council fleet, once confident and unstoppable, now drifted in disarray as entire squadrons vanished into collapsing pockets of space. The Titan stood above Earth like a forgotten god returning to a broken world. Commander Jake Mercer stared through his cockpit canopy, unable to process what he was seeing. "Lunar Command, confirm visual," he whispered. Static crackled. Then Admiral Sophia Reyes responded, her voice shaking for the first time. "Confirmed, unknown entity has engaged hostile forces." A pause. Then softer. "And it is winning." Across orbit, alien warships tried to reposition. Energy cannons fired in desperate bursts, but every attack that touched the Titan simply stopped existing. Like reality rejected them. On the Council flagship Harbinger of Order, panic finally broke through discipline. "Executor Valdrick," an officer shouted, "fleet cohesion is collapsing." Valdrick stood motionless, staring at the Titan. For the first time since arriving at Earth, his expression was not superiority. It was uncertainty. "That structure," he said slowly, "is not Council origin." Another officer turned pale. "Then what is it?" Valdrick didn't answer. Because even he didn't know. Deep beneath Earth's surface, alarms screamed inside the hidden Titan facility. Dr. Nathan Hale ran through shaking corridors as containment systems failed one after another. Red emergency lights flashed violently across metallic walls. "This wasn't supposed to happen," one scientist shouted. "It was sealed." General Myra Kane grabbed Hale's arm. "You told me it was dormant." Hale's face was pale, eyes locked on the central monitoring core. "It was supposed to be." A violent tremor shook the entire facility. On the main display, a single line of text appeared. "Core awakening complete." Then another message followed. "Identity confirmed. Creator signal DATACTAD." Hale froze. "No," he whispered, "that's not possible." Kane stepped closer. "What does it mean?" Hale slowly turned toward her. "It means it didn't wake up because of us." A long silence. Then, "It woke up because it recognized us." Above Earth, the Titan moved. Each step sent gravitational ripples through space. Alien warships were pulled into unstable orbits, their formations breaking apart like shattered glass. Commander Mercer's fighter shook violently as he was forced to adjust trajectory. "Command, I'm getting pulled into its gravity field." Reyes responded instantly. "Eject if necessary." Mercer hesitated. Below him, Earth stretched wide and vulnerable. Above him, the Titan towered like an impossible shield. "No," he said quietly, "I'm staying." The Titan raised its head. Its glowing blue eyes locked onto the Harbinger of Order. Then it spoke again. But this time, its voice was different. Not rage. Not threat. Recognition. "Scan complete," it echoed across all frequencies. Valdrick stepped forward on his bridge. "Identify yourself," he demanded. A pause. Then the Titan answered. "Designation, Worldender Prime." The Council officers froze. Valdrick's eyes widened slightly. "Impossible," he whispered. The Titan continued. "Creation status active. Directive preserve balance." A low hum echoed across space as massive energy systems inside the Titan began awakening deeper layers. On Earth, Dr. Hale fell to his knees. "That's not a weapon," he said softly. "It's an arbiter." Kane turned sharply. "An arbiter of what?" Hale's voice shook. "Judgment." Suddenly, every Council ship received a transmission. Not audio. Not video. Memory. Millions of data streams flooded their systems. Images of dead civilizations, destroyed galaxies, burning star clusters. The Titan was showing them something ancient. A history no Council archive contained. Valdrick stumbled slightly as the data overwhelmed his ship systems. "What is this?" he growled. The Titan answered, failed CIVILIZATONS, 9,871,004. Silence. Reason, internal conflict. Expansion without limit, cycle of self-extinction. Commander Mercer watched in disbelief as alien ships around him stopped firing entirely. Even the enemy was now frozen. They're not attacking, he muttered. Reyes replied quietly. They're listening. The Titan turned slowly toward Earth. For the first time since awakening, its attention shifted away from the Council fleet and toward humanity itself. Inside the facility, alarms spiked again. Dr. Hale looked at the screen in horror. He's targeting us. Kane stepped back. No, why would it target its own creators? The Titan spoke again. Query humanity status. A pause. Then, are you worth saving? The entire planet fell silent. Billions looked upward. No one breathed. No one moved. Not even the Council fleet. For the first time in Earth's history, humanity was being judged. Commander Mercer whispered into comms. Don't answer that wrong. Above Earth, the Titan waited. And for the first time since the war began, it did not attack. It listened, silence stretched across Earth like a held breath. Not a single engine fired. Not a single weapon discharged. Even the Galactic Council fleet remained frozen in hesitation, their systems still flooded with the Titan's impossible data stream. Commander Jake Mercer floated in orbit, his fighter drifting slightly off course. Command, are you seeing this? He whispered. Admiral Sophia Reyes answered slowly. We're seeing it. But her voice didn't sound like an admiral anymore. It sounded like a woman, standing at the edge of something she could never understand. Above Earth, the Titan remained still. Its colossal form cast a shadow over oceans and continents, yet it did not strike. Its glowing eyes scanned the planet with unsettling patience. Then it spoke again. Query repeated. Its voice echoed across every device, every satellite, every mind-linked military channel. Are you worth saving? Inside the underground Titan facility, Dr. Nathan Hale collapsed onto a console. We don't even know what it means by saving, he whispered. General Myra Kane grabbed him. Then answer it. Hale shook his head violently. If we answer wrong, we might erase ourselves. In orbit, High Executor Valdrick stood in silence on the harbinger of order. For the first time in his long service to the Galactic Council, he was not issuing commands. He was observing. Something ancient stirred in his memory systems, the fragmented records of extinct civilizations, the forbidden archives erased from Council doctrine. Machines like this had been referenced before. Never confirmed, always classified as myth. Until now, an officer stepped beside him nervously. Executor, should we continue the assault? Valdrick didn't answer immediately. His glowing eyes remained fixed on the Titan. Then he said quietly, No. The officer blinked. No. Valdrick's voice darkened. If that thing wanted us dead, we would already be gone. A long pause. Then softer. We are not the dominant force here. The Titan moved again. Slowly, deliberately. It extended one massive hand toward Earth, not in attack but in observation. Atmospheric pressure shifted instantly. Clouds spiraled around its fingers like storms obeying gravity itself. Then a new transmission began. But this one was different. Not a question. A memory. Across Earth, billions suddenly saw visions they did not understand. Ancient stars burning. Civilizations rising and collapsing. Galaxies folding inward like dying flowers. And in the center of it all, machines. The same Titans. But older. More violent. More unstable. Dr. Hale gasped as he saw the same visions in the facility. This isn't just one Titan, he whispered. It's a lineage. Kane turned sharply. What do you mean? Hale's eyes were wide with terror. It's a system, a judgment protocol, a correction mechanism. Above Earth, the Titan's voice returned. Origin memory, RESTORD. The galaxy itself seemed to vibrate. Creation event, ancient war. The Council fleet listened in stunned silence. Valdric clenched his fists. The Titan continued. The creator species entered global conflict cycle. Images flashed again, this time clearer. A civilization not human, but similar, advanced, beautiful, and collapsing into endless war. To prevent total cosmic collapse, the Titan said, World-Ender UNITS were CREATED. Commander Mercer watched in disbelief. They made it, he muttered. They made these things. Admiral Reyes responded softly. And lost control. The Titan's eyes dimmed briefly. Containment failed. A pause. World-Ender UNITS did not stop war. They defined it. On the Harbinger, Valdric's expression tightened. So that is what we are facing. A weapon that outgrew its purpose. A judge that no longer remembered mercy. Suddenly, a new signal emerged from deep space. Not from the Council. Not from Earth. From beyond mapped regions. Thousands of faint energy signatures activated simultaneously. The Titan reacted instantly. Its entire body shifted. Warning, it declared. Other world DNDARS, DETCTD. Dr. Hale froze. That's what it meant earlier, he whispered, when it asked about the others. Kane turned pale. You're saying there are more of them? Hale nodded slowly. Not just more. His voice cracked. A lot more. Above Earth, space fractured in multiple distant points. Like reality itself was opening doors. Valdric's ship alarms screamed. Unknown fleet signatures entering the system. The Council armada shifted into defensive formation, but too slowly. From the darkness between stars, shapes emerged. Gigantic. Silent. Ancient machines identical to the Titan, but scarred, damaged, and corrupted by time. One by one, they awakened. Commander Mercer whispered. We woke all of them. The Titan's voice echoed again. But now it carried something new. Concern. Galactic cycle escalation, DETCTD. Containment protocol failure imminent. Inside Earth's facility, Dr. Hale realized the horrifying truth. They didn't come to save us, he whispered. Kane turned to him. What do you mean? Hale looked at the shaking screens. They came because we restarted the system. A pause. Then, and now it's judging everything again. The Titan turned its glowing eyes toward Earth once more. But this time, they were no longer calm. They were calculating. And somewhere deep inside its ancient intelligence, a final decision began forming. Because the question had changed. It was no longer, are you worth saving? Now it was, are you worth the cycle continuing? And the answer, the galaxy did not fall into chaos. It fell into silence first. A silence far worse than war. Across thousands of star systems, civilizations watched as ancient machines awakened from forgotten ruins, dead planets, and collapsed star clusters. The world-enders were no longer a legend. They were awake. And they were moving. Commander Jake Mercer's fighter drifted beside Earth's upper atmosphere, engines running at minimum output. His hands trembled slightly as new signals flooded tactical displays. Command, we've got multiple unknown signatures, he reported. Admiral Sophia Reyes responded immediately. Define unknown. Mercer swallowed. They're not Council ships. A pause. Then softer. They're like the Titan, but not ours. Above Earth, the Titan remained motionless. But its systems were no longer idle. Deep internal structures were activating, layer after layer of impossible machinery unlocking within its core. Dr. Nathan Hale watched from underground monitors, pale and shaking. It's not just responding anymore, he whispered. General Myra Kane stepped closer. What is it doing? Hale hesitated, thinking faster than we can track. In orbit, High Executor Valdrick stood before the shattered battlefield reports. Entire Council fleets were gone. Not destroyed. Erased. And now something worse was happening. The other world-enders were converging. From 3 separate galactic directions. Like hunters responding to a call. Valdrick's second-in-command approached cautiously. Executor, should we request reinforcement from the core worlds? Valdrick didn't answer immediately. Then, no. The officer blinked. No. Valdrick's glowing eyes narrowed. If we call them here, we don't control the situation anymore. A long pause. Then colder. We become prey as well. Far beyond Earth, the first collision occurred. A rogue world-ender engaged a council defense armada near a dead star system. The battle lasted 11 seconds. Not because one side won, but because the council fleet stopped existing. Commander Mercer received the transmission seconds later. His voice dropped. They're deleting entire fleets without firing weapons. Reyes responded grimly. We're not watching a war. A pause. We're watching correction. On Earth, panic was no longer loud. It was quiet now. People no longer ran. They stared at the sky, because fear had reached its limit, and something worse had replaced it. Acceptance. Inside the United Earth bunker, world leaders argued over fragmented data. We need evacuation protocols. There's nowhere to evacuate to. We need to surrender. Secretary Elias Ward stood silently at the center of the chaos. Then finally spoke. Surrender to what? The room went quiet. Ward stepped forward. We don't even understand what we're surrendering to. Above Earth, the Titan moved again, slowly rotating toward deep space. Its voice returned. World ENDAR network expansion DETCTAD. A pause. Then, Threat CATGORIS updated. Commander Mercer stiffened. Command, I don't like that tone. Reyes didn't answer immediately. Then, neither do I. Suddenly, every sensor in the system lit up. Multiple massive objects entered real space at once. Not council ships. Not human. World-enders. But something was wrong. These were not identical. Some were cracked. Some partially melted. Some fused with dead matter from destroyed civilizations. They were evolving, adapting, and they were heading toward Earth. Dr. Hale stared at the data feed in horror. They're not just coming here, he whispered. Kane turned sharply. Then where are they going? Hale's hands shook as he zoomed the display. All of them are converging on one point. A pause. Then, Earth is the center. In orbit, Valdrick saw it too. His face tightened. That is impossible, he muttered. An officer beside him spoke fearfully. Executor, why would all world-enders converge on a single primitive world? Valdrick stared at Earth, and then at the Titan. Slowly, realization formed. Because Earth reactivated the system. The officer froze. You mean? Valdrick interrupted sharply. We didn't discover a weapon. A pause. We triggered a response protocol. The Titan's eyes suddenly brightened. Convergence confirmed. Its massive hand lifted slightly. Space bent. Gravity fields shifted across the solar system. Then it spoke again. Final judgment node, Earth. Commander Mercer's breathing quickened. Final judgment. Reyes responded softly. I think we just became the center of something very old. Deep underground, Dr. Hale turned to General Kane. His face was pale. If they all arrive here, he whispered. Kane finished his sentence. Then Earth becomes the battlefield of gods. Hale shook his head. No. A pause. Worse. He looked at the shaking monitors. It becomes the test site. Above Earth, the Titan faced the approaching Convergence alone. And for the first time since awakening, it stopped waiting. Its voice echoed across every system, every ship, every civilization watching from afar. Engaging containment directive. A pause. Then, Origin War Protocol restarting. And as the first wave of world-enders entered the system, the galaxy prepared to witness what it had tried to forget for billions of years. The real war had begun again. The sky above Earth no longer looked like space. It looked like a fracture in reality. World-enders arrived in waves, colossal machines emerging from folded dimensions, broken star paths, and collapsed wormholes. Each one carried the weight of extinct civilizations inside its armor like ghosts trapped in metal. And Earth stood at the center of it all. Commander Jake Mercer's fighter shook violently as gravitational distortions rippled through orbit. "Command, I've got multiple Titan-class entities entering the system," he shouted. Admiral Sophia Reyes responded, her voice tight. "We see them." A pause. Then softer. "We see all of them." In underground command, Dr. Nathan Hale stared at cascading data streams. Every sensor on Earth was failing. Not destroyed. Overwritten. The world-enders weren't just entering space. They were rewriting its rules. General Myra Kane grabbed him. "Tell me we can still control the Titan." Hale hesitated. Then, "I don't think we ever controlled it." Above Earth, the Titan stood motionless. But inside its core, entire layers of ancient intelligence were unfolding. It was no longer just reacting. It was remembering and recalculating. The approaching world-enders formed a broken ring around the solar system. Some were massive, intact warforms. Others were half-dead relics dragging shattered planets behind them. And yet, they all stopped at the same distance, waiting, like predators recognizing another predator. On the Council flagship Harbinger of Order, High Executor Valdrick watched the standoff in silence. For the first time, he spoke without authority. "This is not an invasion," he said quietly. An officer turned toward him. "Executor." Valdrick's eyes narrowed. "This is a reactivation event." A pause. Then colder. "We are witnessing a system rebooting itself." Suddenly, every world-ender across the system synchronized. One pulse. One signal. All of them responded at once. A voice not mechanical but layered across millions of ancient transmissions, spread through space. "Core directive, verify final civilization status." Commander Mercer felt it in his cockpit. Not sound. Not vibration. Something deeper. Like pressure on the mind itself. "They're scanning everything," he whispered. Reyes responded instantly. "Hold position." Against that, Mercer replied in disbelief. A pause. Then her voice. "Yes." The Titan moved, slowly stepping forward into space between Earth and the approaching machines. Its voice echoed across the system. "Earth designation, under protection." The world-enders paused. For the first time, their formation shifted. Uncertainty. Inside underground command, Dr. Hale froze. "Protection," he whispered. "It's protecting us." Kane looked at him sharply. "From what?" Hale stared at the screens. "From them or from itself?" Suddenly, one of the world-enders broke formation. A massive corrupted construct, its hull fused with fragments of dead civilizations, charged forward toward Earth. It didn't fire weapons. It simply advanced, and space around it began collapsing. Commander Mercer reacted instantly. "They're attacking." But before anyone could respond, the Titan raised its hand, and time stopped. Not metaphorically. Literally. The advancing world-ender froze mid-motion. Particles suspended. Light halted. Even communication signals stopped moving. Mercer's voice cracked. What just happened? Ray's whispered. It paused reality. Inside the frozen battlefield, only the Titan remained active. It stepped forward into the stillness and touched the immobilized world-ender. A pulse spread outward. Suddenly, memory flooded every system. Millions of destroyed civilizations flashed across all networks simultaneously. Wars, extinctions, collapse cycles repeating endlessly. Dr. Hale fell to his knees. It's showing them the truth, he whispered. Kane stared in horror. The truth of what? Hale's voice broke. Why they exist. Time resumed. The world-ender recoiled violently, retreating back into formation. For the first time, hesitation spread across the entire swarm. Valdric watched silently. They remember now, he said. An officer turned. Remember what? Valdric didn't answer immediately. Then, that they were never meant to stop war. A pause. They were meant to end it. Suddenly, all world-enders changed direction. Not toward Earth. Not toward the Titan. But toward each other. Commander Mercer watched in shock. They're turning on themselves. Reyes replied slowly. No. A pause. They're deciding. Above Earth, the Titan's eyes dimmed slightly. Conflict resolution status, unstable. Then, Creator Species Presence Deity Acetiidae. Inside Underground Command, alarm spiked again. Dr. Hale froze. What did it just say? Kane turned pale. We're not the only creators. A new signal appeared. Deep within Earth's data archives, older than modern civilization, buried beneath classified layers of forgotten history, something responded. A second Titan signature. Dormant, but awakening. Hale whispered in horror. Oh no. Kane grabbed him. What now? Hale stared at the screen. We weren't the first. Above Earth, the Titan turned its gaze downward. Directly at humanity. Its voice returned. But now it carried something different. Not question. Not judgment. Warning. Multiple creator. LINEAGESDETACTD. A pause. Then. Earth is not original source. Commander Mercer's blood ran cold. What does that mean? Reyes answered quietly. I think it means we're not the beginning of this story. A pause. We're just the latest version of it. And deep in space, the world-enders began to move again. But this time, they were no longer hunting. They were searching. Space above Earth no longer resembled a battlefield. It resembled a collapsing memory of reality itself. World-enders moved through the system in fractured formations, no longer unified. Some hunted each other. Others paused mid-motion as if re-evaluating existence. Entire regions of space flickered between stability and void. And at the center of it all stood Earth. Still alive. Still watching. Commander Jake Mercer's fighter drifted between gravitational anomalies as his sensors screamed non-stop. Command, I've got 3 world-enders engaging each other directly, he shouted. Admiral Sophia Reyes responded, voice strained. We see it. A pause. Then softer. And we're still here in the middle of it. In Underground Command, Dr. Nathan Hale stared at something that should not exist. A second Titan signal. Buried deeper than the first. Older. Far more unstable. General Myra Kane noticed his expression immediately. What is it now? Hale didn't answer at first. His hands trembled over the console. Then, Earth wasn't just discovered. A pause. It was used. Above Earth, the Titan remained still. But its presence had changed. It was no longer simply reacting to threats. It was choosing sides. Its massive hand slowly turned toward the chaotic swarm of world-enders. Then it spoke. Primary Directive Conflict DETCTD. A pause. Resolution. Initiate final alignment. Commander Mercer swallowed hard. Final alignment, he whispered. Reyes responded quietly. I think it means everything ends one way or another. Suddenly, space tore open again. But this time, the rupture was not random. It was structured, like something deliberately opening doors. From within the fractures emerged something new. Not world-enders. Not council ships. Something older. More refined. Machines that looked like the Titan, but brighter, cleaner, almost alive with flowing patterns of light instead of cold metal. Dr. Hale's eyes widened in horror. They're not corrupted, he whispered. Kane turned sharply. Then what are they? Hale's voice broke. They're original models. The new arrivals moved into formation instantly. And every world-dender in the system froze. Even the Titan paused. For the first time since Earth's crisis began. Everything stopped fighting. Commander Mercer watched in disbelief. Okay, someone explain what I'm seeing. Reyes didn't respond immediately. Then quietly, we just got introduced to the rest of the system. On the harbinger of order, High Executor Valdrick stood motionless. The council fleet around him was silent. Even fear had become too small a word. What are they? An officer finally asked. Valdrick's answer came slowly. The original custodians. A pause. The ones that built the world-enders. The new machines spread across the battlefield. And then, they spoke. Not to humans. Not to the council. To the Titan. Protocol Unit Prime DETCTD. The Titan responded instantly. Identity confirmed. A pause. Origin Council active. Dr. Hale froze underground. Origin Council, he whispered. There's a council above the council. Kane looked at him sharply. You're telling me this isn't the top? Hale's face was pale. I don't think there ever was a top. Suddenly, all world-enders in the system shifted again. But this time they did not attack. They aligned. Half with the Titan, half with the Origin Council machines. Commander Mercer's voice shook. They're splitting. Reyes responded quietly. No. A pause. They're choosing sides. Above Earth, the Titan turned fully toward the Origin Council fleet. For the first time, its voice changed. No longer neutral. No longer observational. It became direct. Cycle failure acknowledged. A pause. Correction attempt blocked. The Origin Council machines responded instantly. Protocol Prime must be TRMNATD. And then, war erupted again. But this time, it wasn't humans versus aliens. It wasn't Council versus rebellion. It was gods fighting gods. Entire sections of space collapsed as Titan-class entities clashed with Origin Council constructs. Reality bent violently around their battles. Stars flickered like dying sparks. Commander Mercer's fighter nearly lost structural integrity. We are way too close to this, he shouted. Reyes responded urgently. Pull back to Earth orbit. Mercer hesitated. Earth is still safe. A pause. Then her voice. For now, on Earth, billions watch the sky change color. Not blue, not black, but shifting gradients of impossible geometry as higher dimensional combat unfolded above them. Inside Underground Command, Dr. Hale made a horrifying discovery. The second Titan signal had fully activated, and it was responding directly to the Origin Council. General Kane grabbed him. What is it doing? Hale whispered. It's waking up the real one. Above Earth, the Titan paused mid-conflict. Its glowing eyes dimmed, then brightened again, as if something inside it had just reconnected. Its voice echoed across all channels. Multi-tiered authority, DATSCTAD. A pause. Final authorization required. Commander Mercer's breath caught. What authorization? Reyes whispered. I don't think we're being asked anymore. A pause. I think we're being notified. And deep within Earth, something massive shifted beneath the crust. Older than the Titan. Older than the Worldenders. Older than the Origin Council itself. A system long buried. Long sealed. And now, fully awake. The galaxy had just entered its final phase. And Earth had just been recognized as the trigger. Space itself was breaking. Not exploding, not collapsing. Breaking like reality had become a thin glass surface being cracked from every direction at once. The Titan hovered above Earth, its immense form illuminated by collapsing stars and shifting dimensions. Across the system, Origin Council machines clashed with Worldenders in battles that rewrote physics with every strike. And yet Earth remained at the center. Commander Jake Mercer's fighter drifted through unstable orbit debris fields as alarms screamed non-stop. Command, I've lost all stable navigation systems, he shouted. Admiral Sophia Reyes responded, voice tense but controlled. Hold position near Earth shadow. Do not engage anything larger than your ship. A pause, then softer, and Mercer, stay alive. Inside Underground Command, Dr. Nathan Hale stared at the final data stream. The second Titan, not dormant anymore, fully awake beneath Earth's crust. General Myra Kane stood beside him, silent for once. What is it? She finally asked. Hale swallowed hard. The original containment engine. A pause. The thing that built the first Titans and decided they were a mistake. Above Earth, the Titan spoke again. But this time, its voice was no longer singular. It was layered. Multiple intelligences speaking in perfect synchronization. Final authority line established. The Origin Council machines responded instantly across space. Prime protocol must be erased. The Worldenders aligned behind them again, half corrupted, half restored, forming a massive shifting warfront around the solar system. And then, they all turned toward Earth. Commander Mercer's breathing quickened. Command, everything just stopped fighting. Reyes replied slowly. I see it. A long silence. Then, they're all looking at us. On Earth, billions stared upward. No one spoke anymore. There was nothing left to say. The sky was no longer sky. It was a layered battlefield of gods, machines, and impossible entities locked in judgment beyond human comprehension. And in Geneva, Secretary Elias Ward stood alone in the shattered United Earth Assembly chamber. Valdrick was gone. The Council had retreated. Even communication with Lunar Command was fading. Ward looked up through the broken ceiling. Then quietly said, So this is it. Above him, the Titan descended slightly. Not attacking. Not retreating. Approaching. Its massive hand extended toward Earth. And every system across the planet lit up at once. A new transmission began. But this one was different. It did not target governments. It did not target militaries. It targeted humanity itself. Civilization classification, unresolved. A pause. Final judgment node, active. Dr. Hale screamed inside the underground facility. No, don't let it finish that process. Kane grabbed him. What happens if it does? Hale's voice broke. We cease to be an undefined variable. A pause. We become an outcome. Commander Mercer suddenly noticed something horrifying. The Worldenders were not firing anymore. Neither were the Origin Council machines. Even the Titan had stopped all movement. Everything was waiting. For Earth. For humanity. Reyes whispered over comms. I think this is the decision point. Mercer's voice shook. Decision point for what? A long silence. Then her answer. For whether we continue to exist in their model of reality. Inside Geneva, Elias Ward stepped forward. Alone, bloodied, surrounded by collapsing infrastructure and dead communication systems. And still he spoke. Not to Earth, not to machines, to the sky itself. You came here demanding tribute, he said quietly. No one answered. His voice hardened. You pointed weapons at our cities. A pause. You told us we were insignificant. He looked upward at the Titan, at the World Enders, at the Origin Council, and then said the only thing humanity had ever truly been known for. We refused. Above Earth, something shifted. The Titan systems paused. The Origin Council fleet recalculated. The World Enders hesitated. For the first time since the war began, all intelligence structures stopped reacting, because humanity had done something none of them had modeled. Not attack, not surrender, not negotiation. Defiance without calculation. Dr. Hale stared at the readings in disbelief. It's stalling the entire system, he whispered. Kane turned sharply. What is? Hale's voice shook. Human unpredictability. The Titan spoke one final time. Its voice no longer cold, no longer layered, almost uncertain. Query. A pause. Why resist without outcome probability? Commander Mercer heard it clearly. He whispered, It doesn't understand us. Reyes answered softly. No. A pause. It's never met something that doesn't calculate survival before choosing to act. Elias Ward stood under the open sky and answered anyway. Because we are not your equation. A pause. We are the ones who decide anyway. For the first time, the Titan did not respond immediately. The Origin Council machines went silent. The World Enders stopped moving entirely. And deep within Earth, the second Titan system fully awakened. A new voice emerged. Older than all of them. Not hostile. Not friendly. Just final. Civilization test complete. A pause. Result undefined. Across the galaxy, every system froze. Then, the war ended. Not with destruction. Not with victory. But with silence. And in that silence, humanity remained standing. Still small. Still fragile. Still burning with impossible defiance. And for the first time in cosmic history, the galaxy had no answer for that.